have this story from the Bronx where a woman tells Eyewitness News she is fighting a losing battle. She says her apartment is being overrun by rats.
After repeated calls for help to her landlord and complaints to the city, she is now worried about her health. Here's Anthony Carlo.
This is what we used last night to catch that other one. We had to put the weights on him, the hammer.
Cora Robinson, armed with a piece of plywood, spends her days trying to defend her home against rats.
I thought it would keep them from running around the baseboard, right? But now what they doing is they just come, they so big, they jumping over it.
They certainly don't look small. Miss Robinson took these photos of at least 2 rats rummaging around her kitchen Friday night. Any hope of hosting for Easter went right out the window.
I'm tired of cleaning poop off the stove. You know, I mean, it's terrible. And if you turn the oven on, it smells like them.
Miss Robinson took this video of one of the rodents sitting on her countertop in the fall. She says she's been dealing with this infestation for almost a year now.
I can see how much this is wearing on you.
It is. I can't sleep. I'm not eating. And if I don't stop this, I'm going to wind up in the hospital.
If you've had a car on finance between 2007 and 2024, you could be owed compensation.
Good afternoon. After all the twists and turns over whether Kanye West would end up performing at this year's Wireless Festival, the row has now ended in the entire event being cancelled. The rapper had been given a headline slot, causing uproar due to his repeated anti-Semitic remarks made in recent years. Now, earlier today, he had offered to meet the Jewish community in the UK to make amends, but the Home Office took the decision to block him from entering the country altogether. And this is what the Prime Minister has had to say on the issue in just the past few minutes. Kanye West should never have been invited to headline Wireless. This government stands firmly with the Jewish community, and we will not stop in our fight to confront and defeat the poison of anti-Semitism. We will always take the action necessary to protect the public and uphold our values. Let's bring in our correspondent, Graham Stothard. Graham, good to see you. So this coming in from the Prime Minister, and interestingly, it was actually the Prime Minister who a couple of days ago was one of the first people to speak out publicly against Kanye West being invited to Wireless.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as soon as Kanye West, who now performs as Ye, was mentioned as the headliner for Wireless, there has been controversy. He is a huge superstar, but he is a superstar who has courted massive controversy for the past few years. And today we heard from the government that they would be blocking his entry to the UK. And now we've heard from Wireless's organiser, Festival Republic, that they will be cancelling the entire event altogether. It was meant to be held in July in Finsbury Park. There were meant to be 3 performances. Now there will be no performances. And in a statement, they said this was the Home Office, because the Home Office has withdrawn Ye's ETA, that's a kind of visa, denying him entry into the United Kingdom. As a result, Wireless Festival is cancelled and refunds will be issued to all ticket holders. As with every Wireless Festival, multiple stakeholders were consulted in advance of booking Ye, and no concerns were highlighted at the time. Anti-Semitism in all its forms is abhorrent, and we recognise the real and personal impact these issues have had. As Ye said today, he acknowledges that words alone are not enough, and in spite of this, still hopes to be given the opportunity to begin a conversation with the Jewish community in the UK. Now,
Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, it's my honor to introduce the President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Jared, and you are doing a fantastic job. And hello, very special hello to Artemis 2. Today you've made history and made all America really proud, incredibly proud. We have a lot of things to be proud of lately, but this is there's nothing like what you're doing, circling around the moon for the first time in more than a half a century and breaking the all-time record for the farthest distance from planet Earth Humans have really never seen anything quite like what you're doing in a manned spacecraft. It's really special. I want to personally salute and congratulate Commander Reed Weissman, Pilot Victor Glover, Mission Specialist Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. And I also want to thank the entire amazing team at NASA, headed by Jared, who's a very special guy, by the way. And you all made this day possible, and you've really inspired the entire world. Really, everybody's watching. They find it incredible. I just watched you go to the back of the moon, and people haven't been there in a long time, we can say, but it's going to be more and more prevalent because we're going to be doing a lot of traveling, and then you're going to ultimately do the whole big trip to Mars, and that's going to be very exciting. So you look at, we had no astronaut.
I'm coming for you.
Look closely at the Dell XPS with Intel inside. When design and performance come together as one, all you see is everything you want. The Dell XPS.
Home. It's a feeling that grows over time. It's where a sofa.
Dear God, you have not seen awkward until you've watched this phone call between Donald Trump and the Artemis II crew.
So proud to be a part of this program.
Well, I have to say I spoke to a very special person, Wayne Gretzky, who I think you know, the great one. And I spoke to your prime minister and many other friends I have in Canada. They are so proud of you. And you have a lot of courage. I'm not sure if they'd want to do that. I'm not even sure if the great one would want to do that, to be honest with you. But you have a lot of courage doing what you're doing, a lot of bravery.
To the important matter of Iran, the US, Donald Trump, this latest Truth Social post, what are you reading into it, Lewis?
Well, the thing is, Sheila, I mean, viewers and listeners might be despairing of the fact that I've returned after only 90 minutes. But in the intervening 90 minutes, the President of the United States has threatened civilizational destruction over Iran and thereby presumably a genocide over the people of Iran. So
it is
perhaps
rather
it's just
advertising a genocide, isn't
well,
it?
I mean, let's just remind ourselves of the words. He got up this morning, the President, and decided to threaten the Iranian people with complete destruction. A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, or with capital letters, where different, smarter and less radicalised minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. And he says in capitals, who knows? Well, presumably he knows. We will find out tonight, as if it's like one big end-of-season finale blockbuster, one of the most important moments, I'm laughing, but it's not funny, in the long and complex history of the world. God bless the great people of Iran, the people of Iran that presumably he's threatening to completely destroy. And of course,
the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has warned they would retaliate beyond the Middle East and deprive Washington and its allies of oil and gas if the United States crossed what it called red lines. There is so much to dissect with our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette, and Kazra Naji from BBC Persian. Kazra, really good to have you with us. Thank you for coming down and joining us. A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. Intense pressure from President Trump now. How does Iran tend to react to threats like this?
We will have to wait and see. This whole civilization is going to die. It's pretty sort of dramatic, this. And obviously, a lot of Iranians are very concerned that what might happen tonight after this deadline is over, praying that there will be some kind of a deal beforehand. There are signs that things might be moving in that direction. There are Iranian ambassador in Islamabad has been tweeting positively, saying that these talks are at a critical and sensitive stage, as he puts it. So there are diplomatic efforts by the Pakistanis to mediate, and others, I must say. But for the moment, there seems to be something moving. Maybe, hopefully, something will come out. And in fact, what President Trump is saying is basically he's hoping that something will, in fact, happen on the diplomatic front in the next few hours before the 8 o'clock deadline that he has set.
Lise, your thoughts on this comment, a whole civilization will die tonight, and also the fact that he keeps talking, President Trump, about what he calls a complete and total regime change, which is not the case in Iran.
President Trump keeps ramping up the rhetoric. It's seeming to confirm that he has this idea that if he scares Iran enough in its leadership, if the threats get louder and louder, that Iran will eventually buckle. He doesn't seem to have anyone around him, which makes it clear that Iran will not buckle under these threats. It's watching this as the world is shocked by some of his statements, which, if at the very least, they're violations of international humanitarian law, and if carried out, are possible war crimes. Those more experienced negotiators would say that if he really did want to make progress in negotiations, if he was really serious about it, he would quietly move away military assets away from the region to send a signal to Iran that he wants serious negotiations and that he's not really bent on escalation and using this all as a subterfuge, as he did in June 2025 and as he did in February. There are other ways that President Trump could act as the US President and Commander-in-Chief to get Iran to change its behavior, to get Iran to try to show flexibility on its side. But by using the language of surrender and by giving documents the 15-point plan, which is akin to a surrender document, that's not the way to negotiate. Well, President Trump was asked about his deal yesterday. What did he say? I want a deal that's acceptable to me. That is never going to work as a negotiating stance, and it just underlines not just his fundamental misunderstanding of Iran, but never mind that he wrote a book, The Art of the Deal, that a fundamental misunderstanding of how to conduct negotiations.
Truth or Fake means we welcome Vedika Bahel, who is over by the big board. Vedika, good evening to you. I'm sorry for stumbling over your name. That's totally my fault. It's been a very busy night. Vedika, you're here to tell us the daily fact check. The White House posting, then deleting a clip in which Donald Trump insulted France's President Macron, among other inflammatory comments. What's the story behind this?
Well, like the name of this programme suggests, Mark, truth or fake. Every day we separate the truth from the fake, and this one happens to be true. Donald Trump hosted a private Easter luncheon at the White House last Wednesday, where he was extraordinarily candid and made several controversial comments that were likely never supposed to be seen or heard by the public. And he didn't just mock the French president, he also mused about being a king, and he was compared to Jesus. Now, on the website Roll Call, which is dedicated to reporting events on Capitol Hill, we can see Trump's public schedule for Wednesday, April 1st. And indeed, at 12:30 p.m., we can see there is an Easter lunch listed closed press, which means no reporters were supposed to be in the room. However, the White House, despite having it be closed door to the press, the White House live streamed the event and published it on its official channels before swiftly deleting it. And we can actually see the URL from the White House, which is listed, as we can see there, as President Trump participates in an Easter lunch. It is still active, but the page doesn't work. It shows this error message, page not found. Well, a journalist downloaded that video footage from the Easter luncheon and uploaded it online. It was uploaded by Brian Metzger, politics reporter at Business Insider, and he put that hour-long clip online. And about 3 minutes into that video, Donald Trump mocked President Macron's marriage, and he even imitated him with a French accent. I think it's best that we let the video do the talking and hear from Trump himself about those comments.
Then I call up France, Macron, whose wife treats him extremely badly. And he's still recovering from the right to the jaw. And I say, Emmanuel, whose wife treats him extremely badly. And he's still recovering from the right to the jaw. And I say, Emmanuel, we'd love to have some help in the Gulf, even though we're setting records and knocking out bad people and knocking out ballistic missiles. Would love to have some help. If you could you please send ships immediately? No. We cannot do that, Donald. We can do that after the war is won.
So that is a soundbite and the comments that went viral around the world, and it even prompted a reaction from the French president himself. Emmanuel Macron said that we are currently in the middle of a war that is killing civilians, and he called Trump's comments, said that they weren't elegant and they don't merit a response, Mark. And it has also triggered some backlash here in France from other French politicians as well, who believe that Trump's comments on Macron's personal life were extremely unsavoury.
Yeah, it's not a classy thing for Trump to do, is it? Now, compared to Jesus Christ, what is this about, Vedika?
Well, firstly, he mused about being a king, and we can see the transcript that has since been published on Roll Call from that hour-long event. He says, on Palm Sunday, Jesus entered Jerusalem as crowds welcomed him with praise, honouring him as a king. They call me king now. Do you believe it? I'm such a king, I can't get a ballroom approved. And he says, I'm a king. If I was a king, we'd be doing a lot more. So that's Trump complaining about the delay to his ballroom project after a judge ruled that he'd gone beyond his authority to tear down part of the White House. Later in that speech, his longtime spiritual advisor, Paula White, she likened Trump's challenges to Jesus Christ. Now, she said that that Jesus taught us many lessons, great leadership, it requires great sacrifice. And Mr. President, no one has paid the price like you have paid the price. You, as in Trump, were betrayed, arrested and falsely accused. It's a similar pattern that our Lord and Saviour showed us, but it didn't end there for him and it didn't end there for you. And this has prompted a lot of backlash and criticism from Christian communities who say that it is blasphemous to refer to Trump as a Messiah or to liken him to Jesus Christ.
I feel sorry for him going and, sitting down to a state dinner with a man who has insulted the British troops in Afghanistan and said they weren't particularly important and weren't needed.
Is it a good idea for the king to go to the United States next month?
I think it's an acute embarrassment, to tell the truth. No, I don't think it's a good idea. And I was rather hoping that they might find a way of dodging the column by postponing the visit while what was going on in Iran was going on, and say this is not perhaps an appropriate moment to go. I mean, I pity the king. I mean, he's at the mercy of the government. If the government says go, he goes. Just like, remember, the Queen had to entertain Ceausescu, murderous dictator from Romania.
That's their job, isn't
exactly,
it, David?
That's their job. But I feel sorry for him going and, sitting down to a state dinner with a man who has insulted the British troops in Afghanistan and said they weren't particularly important and weren't needed, who's insulted, I'm not talking about insulting the government, but insulted our Royal Navy, goes out of his way to be rude about Britain and about NATO, and who's a narcissist and a bully. And the way to stand up to bullies is not to take it, but it seems that that's not the government's view.
But what is the cost of going? I put aside the actual material cost of sending him there and the security and the like. What actual harm can come of a royal visit?
It appears to endorse what the president is standing for. It appears to endorse the braggadocio. It appears to endorse the narcissism. He has to sit there at a state banquet. You don't have to do one in Windsor. When you remember that terrible scene when the Prime Minister produced an envelope from inside his jacket and said, "Oh, Mr. President, this is a very special invitation, and nobody's ever had a second invitation to a state visit." Schmooze, schmooze, schmooze. If that's the way to treat Trump, if that's the way the government thinks it, well, that's on its own head. But I think the British people, for whom, the King speaks, would actually have liked to seen a slight distance made, a postponement, because while the president is involved in this very important war, and they would see it in Iran, it would be inappropriate to sit down to state banquets and make speeches to Congress. What's he going to say to Congress? What's the government going to have? What words are going to come out of his mouth at Congress about Iran? Anything? Nothing?
It may be that what the king can do is think of himself as visiting the United States, not visiting the administration, and keeping a relationship that has obviously been historically fantastically important, keeping the relationship with the country alive. And if you like, signalling this relationship goes beyond one president.
What relationship?
The relationship between the UK and the US.
Well, it's always been a rather dodgy relationship. I mean, we vaunt it when it suits us, But it's always been a bumpy road. I mean, it was a bumpy road in the First World War. It took the sinking of the Lusitania to bring them in 1917, admittedly then in force. It took the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor to bring them in World War II. We had battles during the 20s and 30s. They fought over our empire. They fought over our trading rights. We've been, I mean, the idea that we've been kind of bosom pals all through is just not true. I mean, it is a negotiated relationship. And at the moment, it's in a pretty rocky state, in my view, because of President Trump. I'm not saying that a new president may not be able to change things. But the idea that somehow, you know, it's Britain in its comfort zone when it talks about our relationship with America and how special it is. I don't see anything particularly special about it.
And it's certainly true that the state visit last year didn't seem to have a durable effect on, if you like, appeasing President Trump or changing his attitude to policy in the UK towards the UK.
No, none at all. I mean, I just think he likes the limelight and enjoys, you know, he's flattered by the Hollywood glamour, which the king brings, of course.
Perhaps you would like a marmalade sandwich. I always keep one for emergencies.
So do I. I keep mine in here.
Oh.
For later.
More caffeine. Arriving today with Amazon Prime. That's off your mind.
The whole world has to isolate this rogue, apartheid, genocidal, maniac, serial-killing, pathologically lying state. Isolate it. Shame anyone who goes there. Academics, celebrities, politicians, and they've been exposed for what they are. And Zionism's on its last leg. It only exists by the weight of its propaganda, and that propaganda's collapsed entirely. The world sees Israel for what it is, and it can't last for long in its current state. You cannot expect change in a society this far gone. It is full-throated fascist. And that's why they act the way they do, with full, total impunity, because they have no humanity left. This is a society so far gone with protection of a military empire, with hatred in their hearts. And we're seeing essentially the Fourth Reich today, marching forward, and there's no allied forces coming to save us. The Israeli Knesset just passed a law allowing the execution of Palestinian prisoners, but not Israelis. This is the true face of apartheid Israel. But this is nothing new. I saw this firsthand when I was in Israel back in 2016. Full-throated fascism.
You can't deal with these people. There's no need to try. There's no need to talk to them.
There's only one way, like, I would carpet bomb them.
You would carpet bomb them?
It's the only way you could deal with it.
I didn't realize this. I didn't realize how viscerally, grotesquely genocidal Israelis were. How openly fascist they would be to anyone.
Jews shouldn't marry Arabs.
Shouldn't marry Arabs. Why do you feel strongly about that?
Because Jews is a special nation that God gave it to the Jews. We don't want the Arabs to be here.
They knew that they were on camera. That's what's so alarming to me too. I wasn't trying to hide. I wasn't doing gotcha journalism. I was going up with a camera and saying, generally, what do you think about the situation?
I think Israelis have to take over and they have to kick them away.
I was so horrified and alarmed at the genocidal rhetoric that was being espoused. Every single person, for every generation, every walk of life, they wanted ethnic cleansing. They said we should nuke them. One little girl laughing, we should kill all Arabs. Kill all Arabs.
We need to kill Arabs. No.
It shows you the impunity back then. The arrogance to just assume this is what you guys think too, right? You're an American, you agree with me. You guys have been doing the same thing. This is who we are. We're
Gigi Hadid is breaking her silence. The supermodel spoke out about the Jeffrey Epstein-related files recently released by the U.S. Department of Justice, in which she is mentioned by name. In a December 2015 email exchange included in the documents viewed by E! News, a redacted individual asked the disgraced financer about Gigi and her sister Bella Hadid's professional success. writing, "How did the Hadid sisters become models and make so much money? I don't understand." And after Epstein replied, quote, "You know," the individual wrote back, quote, "The father paid the agency," to which the late sex offender responded, quote, "No." He later added, quote, "Because they follow directions. It's that simple." When a social media user commented on Gigi's March 29th Instagram post that they had to, quote, unfollow her because she hadn't, quote, talked about those files, Gigi replied that the documents, quote, "made me sick to my stomach," explaining, "Horrible to read someone you've never met speak about you that way, especially in this context. I didn't comment because I don't want to take away from the stories of real victims of his, but your comment made me realize maybe it's not clear and it's important to let you know." Gigi explained that while she, quote, grew up privileged, her parents Mohammed Hadid and Yolanda Hadid, quote, protected me and taught me the value of hard work, noting that after signing to a modeling agency in 2012, quote, "I've worked hard every moment since."
Live chat. Got some questions to, sorry about the chair. It's a bit squeaky, but, you know, real, isn't it?
I would say it's a very big priority because, see, that's one thing that's a little different than other things. We can bomb the hell out of them. We can knock them out for a loop. But to close the strait, all you need is one terrorist that somehow has a truck loaded with, because you can carry them in trucks, large trucks, a water mine, drop them in the water, and now you tell people that own ships that cost $1 billion to don't worry about the mine. You can do that even just by saying we put mines in the water.
Right now, deadline day in Iran, the terror regime has a little more than 12 hours to reopen the Strait of Hormuz or get blown up to the Stone Ages. As moments ago, Iran state media reporting the IRGC threatening to strike U.S. infrastructure and withhold oil and gas for years. Our next guest knows all about fighting the war on terror in the Middle East. Retired Navy commander and former USS Cole commander Kurt Lippold joins us. And Commander Lippold, thank you for your insight. You just heard President Trump talking there about a small mine could do so much damage and paralyze that strait. You well know Iranians likely behind the attack on the Cole. Talk me through the dangers that Iran still poses to the strait.
Well, good morning, Griff. And one of the issues you have to look at is not only the mines themselves, but to a degree, it's also information warfare. The fact that they can announce they even have that capability is enough to give ships pause. And what you're seeing the Iranian regime do is actually throttle and control an international waterway, which cannot be allowed. I mean, the bottom line is, regardless of how other nations feel about President Trump's correct decision to attack Iran, to make them accountable for what they have done for decades in killing thousands and in building and trying to build a nuclear weapon with ballistic missiles, the bottom line is that strait needs to be opened. And he is absolutely correct in saying, we will do whatever it takes to get the Iranians to have free passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz and other areas in the Middle East.
You were in command of USS Cole when a small boat of Iranian-backed terrorists simply came up to the ship and caused the devastation and death that they did. How difficult will it be to stop something like that happening in the strait now?
Well, I think what you have to look at, Griff, is first I would have to make one minor correction, and that is that it was al-Qaeda when they did it, but it's clearly been proven that Iran and al-Qaeda worked together and supported each other. That's where you get the thread connecting the two of them together. But at the end of the day, that boat coming up to USS Cole, we had nothing in our intelligence community at all to indicate that we were going to face the threat of a waterborne improvised explosive device. Today, what really has to happen is we need to create the conditions for persistent surveillance over the Strait of Hormuz and off the shores of all those small islands, Larak, Kesh, and others, to ensure that if anything comes out from there, or we see any preparations to launch, mines or otherwise, they should be absolutely destroyed and done quickly. So having that capability exist has got to be a priority for the administration, and it has been part of the war plan but now we're seeing where it has to actually be implemented.
How important is it that Gulf states, who seem to be indicating they may be willing to help open the strait, and also NATO countries, how important is it that other countries help us?
I think at this point, it's absolutely critical. Again, going back to what I said, whether you agree or disagree with the decision to move forward with this conflict, with President Trump being absolutely right in doing it. If not now, when? And if not, how many lives? Give me a number. But at the end of the day, these other countries becoming involved, NATO, the Middle East countries, it proves to their benefit, because if that strait's open, you have the free flow of maritime traffic and oil from the Middle East, as well as other products and goods. That is going to be good, not just for the Middle East and Europe. It is going to be good for the world, because it also sends a signal to China that what they're doing in militarizing those islands in the South China Sea will not be tolerated if they use that for a power projection purpose to try and control that region of the world following an invasion of Taiwan.
We've got to go, but quickly, why isn't China or India, some of the other customers that are the biggest users of this strait, helping clear it?
I think, quite frankly, when you look at China, that's still a brutal communist dictatorship. They have proven themselves again and again to not be a competitor or an adversary, but in fact, an enemy of the United States. They have aided and abetted Iran. All you have to do is look at some of the recent Wall Street.
Way up here, right at the edge of oxygen, in space. O2 satellite keeps you connected in more places than ever before. So even when you're far from everything, you won't have to miss a thing. Introducing O2 Satellite. Essential for living.
He's known as the Einstein of Wall Street, not least because of his uncanny resemblance to the great theoretical physicist. I'm looking at him now on the floor of the New York stock market, but also the Einstein of Wall Street, of course, because of his brilliant financial mind. And Peter Tuchman, thank you so much for joining us on the programme today. You once described the financial markets under President Trump as being one tweet away from crazy town. And I wonder if you think that the social media message that he published yesterday escorted us over the boundary and into crazy town. Good afternoon to you from London.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored to be on the show, and thanks for all of that wonderful setup for me. But yeah, look, that is a line that I've been using since going back to to last year, the February, March, and April sell-off that we had around tariffs. Historically, Wall Street, look, when where a world leader or our own leader or the Federal Reserve chairman says something that's supposed to impact our markets. In the old days, it used to be done at a designated period of time, before the market opened, after the market closed, or at a designated news conference. And so Mr. Trump obviously, plays in a different rule game than the rest of us. And so it basically puts the markets at a disadvantage when all eyes are, in this new electronic market with a lot of robotics and things going on, where there are actually robots that are engaging social media. And when they see a rumor or any kind of social media content that can can implicate the market in any way, the market reacts, and it reacts in an incredibly it's almost like on steroids. And so, I think it puts everyone at a disadvantage. You can be, you almost feel like the markets are being manipulated. I don't want to be an over conspiracy theorist as far as that goes. But, look, what he's been doing with this, look, we've seen him, I think Mr. Trump, and this is not a political statement, but we've seen that he loves to create catastrophes and then tries and solves them. I mean, that's his mastery, really, right? And so, I think he's a little bit way over his skis in this confrontation, conflict, we're calling it. It's not really a war, it's a conflict. When it comes to Iran, I mean, with the price of oil, I think he underestimated the effect that his actions are going to have had on the market, on the global markets, on our economy, on the price of oil, and everything.
So what's going to happen today? Do you think he's going to tucko? Trump always chickens out. Is he going to chicken out today?
You know what? I hate to predict because I can only be wrong, to be perfectly honest. Because as we know, he tends to throw out a very large swath, and then he'll pull it back. You know how he did it with tariffs, right? 180% tariff, and then by the day's end, it was 20% tariff. And even in his speech that he gave the other day, he spoke out of both sides of his mouth as far as whether we're going to try that the Iran president and he have decided that there's going to be some level of a ceasefire, but if everybody doesn't follow his rules, he's going to get aggressive and kill everyone. So, I mean, I don't know what he's going to say. But fortunately, it's very difficult for me to put my mind inside of his head.
Can you help